Hey, it's Jay in the workshop today. This week we're going to depart from the past couple weeks of Dyson swords. But I did want to go back to a previous project, the one where I did the world's tiniest bleep in a jar. And you can see it's still floating around in there. This one got one. I need to ship it off sooner rather than later. But I bought these tiny jars at the dollar store. They were 4 for $1, okay? And I was hoping they would fit tiny dice, but the tiny dice I have didn't fit in that even tinier opening, so I had to think of other things to do with the little tiny bottles, which was fine. I had a blast. So I decided I wanted to play more with tiny bottles. I have a 3D printer. I was like, oh, I could 3D print little landscapes and put them in a tiny bottle like this and have little bottle landscapes, or, you know, maybe a little ship in a bottle or something. I was going to play around with it. So I ordered these bottles off Amazon, and let me grab one and show you. And you can see they are they hold the same amount, but they're a different shape than the ones I got from the dollar store, okay? And believe it or not, they were actually cheaper per unit. You know, I had to buy 30 of them, but rather than 4 for $1, it ended up being like 4 for 83 cents. So, you know, save a little money by buying in bulk there. But the thing that I noticed is that the lid to this one, the mouth, is a much wider mouth. So I, on a whim, used my UV resin in a very tiny dice mold that I have, made garbage dice, like they got bubbles and everything, but I just wanted to see if they would fit, and they did. So today we are going to go ahead and make tiny dice in a jar. This is also a collaboration with Nano Lab Maker on TikTok. They saw my tiny dice in a jar, my giddiness over them fitting, and sent me a tiny D4 mold. So today we are going to put tiny dice in a bottle. I'll show you how those are made. We're going to make tiny health potions with the D4s, which is what Nano Lab sent them to me for. And I want to see if the bigger dice fit in the dice bottle too. So we got a lot to do. Let's get on it.
This is my intro song, why don't you sing along? Hey, let's see what's up this week, Shop J.
Alright, first things first, we need to mix up some beautiful orange there, a nice creamy pastel orange, mostly because I do have a customer that requested it, so I wanted to make sure I got some orange dice out for them, even if none of the rest of this may or may not turn out okay. And this brick mold we have in front of us is actually my hack job of a mold, made from the dice I pulled from the original mold that I bought. That mold has fallen apart. And then next up we have the tiny dice mold from Nano Lab. This is a perfectly formed set of miniature dice that they sent me to mold up, and I am super excited to see if these fit. Now, for the D4s, I did want to tint them red because everyone knows health potions are red, so I just added a bunch of red to that orange to get a really beautiful color that I could fill out the D4 mold. Next up, we make the forbidden sandwich out of these dice, and after that spends a day in the pressure pot curing, we can pull all those dice out of the molds again. Now these are the teeny tiny dice that I know fit in my tiny jars already, but they came out exactly as I expected them to, with a little bit of trimming up and some paint, as you'll see in a second. And then these are the tiny orange dice that I made with Nano Lab's mold. Almost no cleaning up at all, so absolutely for your mold needs, I would hit them up. These are gorgeous molds that work great straight out the package. And then we just need to test to see if they fit in my tiny bottle, and the answer is unfortunately not. I can get about 4 of the dice in of the 7, which is not enough, but they still remain gorgeous. And then we have the same experience pulling the D4s from their mold. Those little red dice turned out absolutely perfectly, and again, that is absolutely the mold there. Next up, we do need to paint these tiny dice. Now these are the itsy bitsy ones that I pulled from my slab mold, and it's really a messy process because when they're this tiny, they're harder to clean up, so it's mostly just getting the paint in and then wiping it off again. And then you can see the full set totally painted up there. And they fit perfectly in that tiny jar. Now, just because these tiny dice don't go in the jar doesn't mean they don't deserve paint, so let's get them all painted up as well. And I do have another project that I'm going to use these for, and obviously having tiny dice around is never going to be a bad thing. So I'm super excited about these molds that Nano Lab sent me, in case you hadn't picked up on that yet. And honestly, painting the D20 takes the longest, and all the other, of course, there's just fewer faces. It's a lot easier to paint the rest of them. But once these are all painted up, they're a perfectly gorgeous creamy orange with that white on there, and you can see the whole set, just absolutely amazing. And then of course we have to do the D4s. It's a lot of work in the workshop. You don't usually see the nitty-gritty of all of this. I kind of gloss over it, but this is a lot of how our days are spent, are basically putting paint into tiny numbers and wiping paint back off the surfaces of the tiny dice, and that's generally a thing that we have to do all the time for every dice set that we make. But you can see these are perfect, and since we're not trying to put a full set in the jar, we know for certain that they will fit. And I wanted to put a little bit of red resin in the bottom just to give it that little potiony look. And once we get those corks on them, you can see they turned out gorgeous. A perfect little health potion with 2d4 in it, and then the perfect little bottles of dice. Oh my god, you guys. I'm so excited. I keep looking down because they're in front of me. But yeah, so the bigger dice didn't fit, but that's okay. I have another project. I have a commission, actually. Someone wanted tiny dice inside bigger dice, so I think those are going to be perfect for that. But as far as my tiny dice molds go that I had to make knockoff molds of a knockoff mold for, you can see here, they turn out absolutely perfect. They fit exactly in those tiny little dice bottles. We wire wrap the necks separately just so that they'd have a little extra cuteness and you can string them on a necklace or something like that. But yeah, so absolutely perfect. And then of course we have a tiny health potion, which is just adorable. Just that little bit of UV red resin in the bottom to make it look like a potion. And then of course the D4s in there. Both usable. You can pull the cork out, dump your dice out, roll them. No guarantees that you'll be able to find them after you take them out of the bottle, but they will exist. And that is absolutely awesome. I'm tickled pink. I put up 30 of these bottles for sale, the tiny dice bottles for sale, and they sold out in a day. So if you want more, I am hoping in January I'll be able to produce some more. Just depends on how long the mold lasts. We'll see how that goes. Have some thoughts in the future about building my own tiny dice from scratch, but you know, that's all new stuff for the new year. For now, we've got tiny dice, tiny health potions going up in the shop this weekend, and a good time was had by all right? Hey, I love you guys very much. I hope to see you back here, and the easiest way to make your way back here, of course, is to like, subscribe, ring the bell so you get the notifications, okay? And the other thing I really need you to do, of course, is remember to take your meds. If you haven't taken them today, go right now. Just this video is not worth ending. Just go take your meds. More important. And the other thing I need you to know is that we make a lot of stuff here in Shop J. But the one thing that we're trying to make most of all is just a great day. So hope you're having a good one. I know I am. And I'll see you next time. Peace.